Hello and welcome to this tutorial on the world settings in Crayta. To access the world settings, enter the advanced mode by pressing tab on your keyboard. You can find the world settings in the top right corner. The rendering settings within the world settings are concerned with how your game looks. They don't affect the logic of the game at all or any of the gameplay aspects, but merely the aesthetics. They're very superficial. The most important thing to realise with these rendering settings is that they can have quite a dramatic impact on the experience of your game. So it's worth thinking about this before you make your game, especially if you're thinking of using one of the post-process or colour grading effects. Post-process effects are the final filter that occurs on your game just before your player sees it. The term post-process comes from post-processing effects in games development, and it's usually the last aspect of the rendering pipeline. You can change this by clicking on this box. There's lots of pre-made effects in here, including thermal, which will make the camera feel like a thermal imaging camera, and 8-bit, which turns your game into a pixel art game. Color grading will change the weight of the different colors in your game. You might already be familiar with color gradings of cool and warm. So warm will accentuate the oranges and reds in your game, and cool will accentuate the blues. You can use these to kind of add a temperature and a feeling to your game. There's also other pre-made assets in here, including Alien Planet, which can make it feel like an alien planet by shifting the hues of everything, and Supercolor, which really saturates all of the colors in the game. The start time is concerned with what time of day your game is at. By default, your start time will always be 2 o'clock, which is just in the early afternoon, so the sun is high in the sky. There's limited shadows underneath any object in your game. Everything is very clearly visible. You can change the start time to be sunset, for example, which is around 6 o'clock. Sunrise, which is around 6 o'clock in the morning. Or you can even change it so that it's in the middle of the night. The day length will affect how quickly the sun travels round in your game. When it's set to 0, the game will always be at the start time in terms of the time of the day. So it will be 6 o'clock forever in this game. If I change this day length to 10 seconds long, you'll see that the sun starts orbiting, or we start orbiting the sun, every 10 seconds. This could be a really cool thing to use in shooting games and things like that, where it will completely change the cover and completely change what players can and can't see as the sun goes through its day cycle. The sun direction is concerned with what direction the sun is in. At the moment, the sun's over there. If I wanted to move it to the right, I would move this slider to the right. If I want to move it to the left, I can move it to the left. This can be a good way to adjust where the shadows land in your game. For example, in this forest here, the shadows now run across the front, whereas if I move the sun over there, the whole side of this is now completely in shadow, and the alternative is the other way, where the whole side is bathed in sunlight. Skydome Asset determines what the weather is at the moment, so you can have clear, gloomy, rainy. If you set it to space, that will remove any of the sun-based properties that you've changed, because you're now in space and there isn't a sun. Outer and inner horizon change the graphics that exist on the very horizon of your game. Outer horizon being the furthest from the player, inner horizon being between the player and the outer horizon. You can completely customize the sun by clicking the Override Sun button. This allows you to change the intensity of the light coming from the sun and change the color of that light as well. Sun shadows will turn on or off whether the light coming from the sun casts shadows in your game. Override fog is a tool we can use to add fog to our game. When you turn it on, you'll notice there isn't any fog. So in order for you to add fog to your game, you're going to need to increase the height fog density. It'll probably be white by default. Height fog density, which increases how dense the fog is. The height fog fall off, which by decreasing this number, it will make the height of the fog closer to the sky. So you can see the fog is now going up. And height fog start distance, which indicates how close to your character the fog starts. You can use the fog in order to make your game feel like there isn't a gap between your game and the outer horizon. Override Skylight allows you to completely customize the light coming from your sky. Where Override Sun changed the light coming from the sun, the Skylight is a slightly different light, which is more ambient and it covers the entire landscape. So you can change the intensity of the Skylight. I'm just going to turn this on to default. You can change the intensity of the Skylight by increasing or decreasing this slider here. And you can change the color of the light as well. Override Sky allows you to completely customize the sky itself. So here you can change the zenith sky color, which is the color of the sky at its peak at the very top. The horizon sky color, which is the color of the sky at the horizon. Background clouds color, which if you have clouds on, you can change the color of the ones at the background. The clouds color, which allows you to change the color of the clouds in the foreground. The moon color, which if your zenith is set to a dark color and you don't have any clouds. So you can see the stars and the moon. You can now change the color of the moon. And the stars color, which is self-explanatory, means you can change the color of the stars. The sky mesh allows you to add an asteroid belt, which appears as a rainbow over the top of the whole scene. And that's the rendering settings which are available in the world settings in Crayta. Hopefully this has been a useful tutorial for you. Let me know what you think, and if you have any feedback, I'm more than happy to hear it, and it will go into improving my tutorials in the future. I look forward to seeing how you change your world settings in your game, and to seeing some of the topsy-turvy worlds that I come into contact with as I continue to play Crayta as well. Thanks for listening. Take care.